I say that because I'm in the same scenario. Like I think back, 2 decades went by in a blink of an eye. And
Yeah.
when you first start, and I got my normal listeners know this, I got my ass kicked in '07, which was painful for a few years. But
Hmm.
even after that, then I was a buy and hold investor when I started, and then I got hurt. So then
Hmm.
I had this mindset, well, we're just going to flip everything. If we'd
Hmm.
have kept one out of three.
I would like to take a 10-minute break and then. Three, two, one. How do you have the ability to analyze stocks?
Welcome to the Generations of Wealth podcast. I'm your host, Derek Dombeck, and today's show is a lot of fun for me because I get to interview somebody that has been in the business about the same amount of time as me and kind of been through the ups and downs as I have as well. So, really fantastic interview. Before I bring Brandon on, we talk in this show towards the end about the importance of masterminds, and really what that means is the importance of a network. And you guys hear me tell you this just about every intro to a show. This is part of your network. So anything that I can do to help you, the whole team at Generations of Wealth, we're here for you. So if that's as simple as a quick question, or you need a connection to somebody that's been on the show, or whatever else I can do to help you, just go to derekdombeck.com. There is a spot there where you can fill out a little bit of information and then schedule a call with me. So please do that. I'd look forward to talking to you. And with that, let's bring on our guest. And here he is, all the way from the hot, sweaty South in the Atlanta, Georgia area, Mr. Brandon Rickman. Thank you so much for being on the Generations of Wealth show.
Hey, Derek, thanks for having me. It is quite hot here in the South. It is in the 90s and super humid. So, yes, we are sweating.
I got to tell you, the day we're recording this is actually finally pretty decent, but we've had Atlanta weather in Wisconsin for the last 2 weeks, and it's miserable.
Really?
I don't know. I don't know how you guys deal with it, but people say the same thing about Wisconsin in the winter. So
Yeah,
it's amazing what you get used to, right?
that's right.
Brandon, could you just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into your journey and your expertise.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks again, Derek, for having me on. Excited to share a little bit about my journey and learn a little bit more about you as well. So, I am based outside of Atlanta. Grew up in this area in Georgia, and my dad was in construction. And so, my brother and I kind of grew up in construction and real estate. After I got married, we decided my wife was a school teacher and I was working for a local builder, and we were kind of living paycheck to paycheck and really just wanted to do something more, wanted to be able to control our destiny and make a little extra money. So, we'd have time and money to go on vacation when we wanted to. And so, flipped our first house. It was successful, although we learned some valuable lessons along the way. Eventually built that up. Both of us quit working for other people and built up to where we've done somewhere between 500 and 600 flips now. And it's been a fun journey. That's a 20-year runway that we've been doing it, a little over 20 years now. So it's been a fun journey, seen some ups and downs, been through a few different market cycles, but learned a lot and still love real estate.
Well, I love talking to people that have been doing this for a couple decades, as have I. And talking about the different market cycles, I think is really key because we're starting to see a shift right now around the country.
Yeah.
And depending on where you are listening to this right now, you might be in a great market, you might be in a declining market. But my viewpoint has always been those that are in the game and can stay in the game, we can
Mhm.
do very, very well if we're positioned for the market cycle shifts.
Yeah.
What have you seen kind of start of your journey till now, and how did that affect you?
Yeah, I think, people ask me a lot of times, especially now, they're like, well, what do you think is going to happen? What's going to cause the market to shift? And one of the things I've learned, as I'm sure you have, is that nobody ever knows for sure what's going to change. A lot of the stuff that's happened over the last couple of years, I thought would have caused a market to shift considerably. And we are starting to see that now. So I've been through probably two, I guess now, two major market shifts. This coming up, maybe the third. I don't know how major it will be, but one of the things that I think we have to do, and you learn to do the longer you're in this business, is you have to be willing to pivot your business model. And, I think a good example of that happened in kind of mid 22 for us. We were rocking and rolling prior to that. Had built up a team of 9 people on our staff. One of the things we were doing was we were wholesaling a lot of properties to hedge funds because at the time they were all buying, they were paying retail prices, and anything we could get under contract we could sell. And then kind of the end of July, right at the beginning of August of 2022, interest rates started going up. We had 11 hedge funds that we were working with in Atlanta, and they all quit buying overnight. Anything they had under contract, they canceled, and it was just done. And so we had to pivot, and we couldn't keep doing the same thing that we were doing prior to that. So because there wasn't buyers at that price point, so we couldn't just buy anything we could find. We actually had to start operating differently. So we started flipping more. Fortunately, we had a lot of flipping in our background. So years prior to that, we had pivoted to where we were doing 90% wholesaling, and now we were back to pivoting to flipping more. And so I think, one of the things that I've seen over those 20 plus years is that, and it's the reason that I love real estate, is there's so many different ways to build a business, to make money, to be able to serve and help other people in real estate. You just have to be willing to pivot as the market changes. You don't always know when it's going to change, but you have to be willing to notice the change, notice the shift, and be willing to do something different.
Have you, I get this question all the time. Have you had any regrets on not keeping more of your flips?
Yeah. Yeah. That's I did a podcast not too long ago, and somebody asked me, what's your number one regret? And my answer was not keeping more of the properties. So, and other investors that I've talked to, it's the same thing. So yeah, I wish I could go back and keep all of those properties that I've sold. Even half of them would be remarkable. But at the time, sometimes it was needed for cash flow, to float the business. Other times it made sense to sell properties and use that money to reinvest in other things. So I definitely would have loved to have done things a little bit different as far as holding more properties. But at the same time, it helped to get us where we are today. So,
well, and I say that because I'm in the same scenario. Like, I think back, 2 decades went by in a blink of an eye. And
yeah.
When you first start, and I got my normal listeners know this, I got my ass kicked in 07, which was painful for a few years. But even after that, then, I was a buy and hold investor when I started, and then I got hurt. So then I had this mindset, well, we're just going to flip everything. If we'd have kept 1 out of 3, every third property, and it'd be so much different now, as knowing what we know with the big run up in pricing, COVID era, everything else. But we also have to make decisions based on the information we have at the time, and that's what we're all doing today. We have no choice, right? So my crystal ball is probably pretty foggy, like everybody else's, but my crystal ball is telling me I'm planning on holding as much as I can now, but doing it a lot different. I don't personally want to be a landlord. I like holding paper, and I like holding options to purchase property, to get the upside without the tenants and toilets. But I guess I'm curious where your next foggy crystal ball has you going for direction.
Yeah, I agree with you. Trying to find, I haven't looked at buying the notes or holding the paper necessarily. We do own a private lending business, so we're doing some private lending, as I believe you are as well. But definitely wanting to hold some more properties as we go forward. And one of the things that I've learned, and that I teach our clients now, is to do one wholesale, one buy and hold, and one flip out of 3 properties. Now, it's not a perfect science, depends on what property you come across, but we teach people to evaluate all of those when you're looking at a property. Evaluate it for a flip, evaluate it for a buy and hold, and evaluate it for a wholesale property. Because if obviously wholesaling is quick turn, quick cash. So you can have a property, flip it, make 10, 15, 20, $30,000 without closing on it. That's great for quick cash. And then flip one, which usually takes, anywhere from 3 to 6 months, depending on the size of the flip. And when you sell it, that could be a 30, 40, 50, $70,000 deal. So a little bit longer term. And then the third option, and what we encourage people to do, is the third property also be looking for something that you can hold on to, so that you're not necessarily getting cash out of it, but you're building long-term wealth for it. So that's something that I've started telling people I wish I had done 20 years ago. Look at a model like that where you're getting immediate cash flow, you're also getting some long-term bigger hits, and then you're building long-term wealth through holding properties.
Yeah, and like for me, when I say holding paper, that may be putting people in on lease options, lease option
Mm,
buyers.
okay.
And, it's more of a 2 to 5 year hold. But even those, you spread out your tax implications, and you can kind
Yeah.
of you can tax plan a lot better that way as well.
Yeah.
Because flipping is a job, and you're only as good as your last one, and then you got to go find another one, right?
Right.
So what I've always loved is when I've held these options or had people in on lease options. So whether I have an option to purchase or I'm giving an option to purchase, I've always found it very timely that those things paid off when I needed it most.
Mm,
And I don't know what I can contribute that to, but it's kind of nice. Like literally, about 3 weeks before we're recording this, I had somebody that owed me on a note for the last year and 4 months, and got a call from a title company. Says, "What's the payoff?" It was a very nice $34,000 day that it
yeah.
just
That's
came out
great.
of the blue, right?
Yeah.
So so I think it's important for people, especially if they're newer, don't be too short-sighted, right? Because
Yeah.
the 2 decades will go by fast, 3 decades, whatever it is, and man, a lot of fun stuff has happened, a lot of some negative stuff too, but
Right.
it regardless, it goes by very fast.
So in that scenario, Derek, you're buying a property, getting it rent ready, and then doing a holding the paper where you're selling the property to them. They're putting up a chunk as a deposit, and then they're gonna pay you some amount for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and then hopefully buy it. If they don't buy it at that time, you can take it back, put a little bit of rehab money into it, and do it again. Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah, and
Yeah.
and just because of our foreclosure laws here in Wisconsin, which are not nearly as nice as yours are in Georgia,
Yeah.
I prefer lease options versus either notes, mortgages, or land contracts. But
Okay.
the essentially it's the same model. Um,
Mm,
and yeah, they have non-refundable deposits, and I want to set them up for success. I truly want them to be a homeowner in the end. But if they
hmm.
fail, then and I don't know what the national average is, so I'll just make up the percentages. It's probably about 85% failure rate on a national average
Wow.
for lease options. We have over a 90% success rate on making people
Okay.
homeowners, but that's a lot of front end due diligence, working with them, holding their hand for the
Hmm.
period of time they're in there to get them mortgage ready, right? But I
Yeah.
I really like doing that with properties that I buy creatively. So
Hmm.
if we're buying on terms or sub two, any combination of that with seller financing, those I will definitely hold.
Mm,
Um, so so what are
that's great.
you are you actively doing a lot of flips right now, or what does today look like?
No, we've actually slowed down. We are still doing flips, not to the scale we did prior to 2022, but we are still doing single family flips. We've kind of shifted our focus a little bit to more long term, building long term wealth. And you mentioned this a little bit earlier with single family homes. I call it transactional business. So whether you're building a new house, you go find a lot, you build a house, and then you sell the house. Now you have to go find another lot. Whether you're flipping houses or wholesaling, flipping houses, you got to go find the house, you remodel it, you sell it. Now you got to go find another house. And so I consider that what I call transactional business. And I was looking to do something that would build more longer term wealth. So started looking at multifamily and self storage. Ended up getting into self storage, and so we have a facility that we developed, new construction out of the ground, and getting ready to open it. We're almost done, waiting on our CO now. So that's something that I'm looking at doing more and more is trying to spend. It takes more time, obviously, up front, more money up front, bigger risk, bigger numbers. But once you complete the deal, then it continues to pay you as long as you own it. So it's similar to a single family house, but obviously much bigger, many more zeros. So kind of transitioning to more wealth building, long-term wealth building, but still doing a few flips. I mean, we're still doing, a number of flips at a time, but not near the scale we did before.
What's your journey been like, start to finish, with funding? So when you started off, how did you fund your flips? Were you using institutional funding, private funding?
Yeah, and it's one of the questions I get asked, probably the top two questions I get asked from people who want to get into real estate, and I'm sure you get these same questions. One is, how do you find properties off market that meet your needs? And then number two, how do you fund them? How do you finance them? And I, like a lot of people, when I started 20 plus years ago, my wife and I didn't know there was anything other than institutional banks. So it was like, save money, borrow from my friends, borrow from my parents, get a cash advance on a credit card, go borrow 80% from the bank and put down 20%, and then go through it, go through the flip that way. And that first house we did, that's how we financed it. And spent way too much money and way too much time. We try to do all the work ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it took us way too long and cost us more than it should have. But we learned a lot through that. And then obviously once we sold it, I think we made 32,000 on it, which was almost equal to what my wife was making in a full year as a teacher. So she was able to quit. We eventually, once we got involved with some masterminds and got around some other people who had a lot more experience than we did, we learned about different types of financing, hard money lending, and then private lending as well. So we do a lot of private lending now. We borrow from private lenders on our flips, have worked with a lot of hard money lenders in the past. And so, we're paying a little bit higher interest rate than what you would from going to an institutional lender. But it's much easier to do. As you know, you don't have to, hard money lenders and private lenders loan money based on the asset, the property itself. So they're not looking at your W-2, your tax returns like a bank does. They're looking at the value of the property, and they're going to loan up to some percentage of what the after repair value will be, which is great for people who are doing, multiple deals, because we can now do 2, 3, 5, 7 deals at a time by using hard money or private money. So that's 90% of what we do now. Is obviously, if we buy a house that we're going to hold, we'll eventually refinance into an institutional or a DSCR type loan. But for the most part, we're using hard money and private money to do our flips now.
Well, and that's something that, again, people that know me well, I stay away from institutions almost as if they're a plague. And it's nothing against the institutions, but that was my big mistake early on. And there was no control over my business when the markets crashed. And everybody you built relationships with were walked out of the bank, and you had nobody, right? So even to this day, I co-owned a hard money lending company for 10 years. And so we did a lot of business that way as lenders, but all of my transactions, even currently, I don't walk through a bank and ask for money. I'd rather pay my investors a premium to know I'm dealing with real people instead of an institution. And, a lot of people are like, well, do you regret not using the cheaper money? Yeah, sometimes I certainly do, especially when rates were 4 or 5% for commercial, right? 2 and 3 for residential.
Yeah.
But I also look at the people that, went and bought apartment complexes at a 4 cap and now are losing them because they can't talk to the institution. The institution's like, well, thank you, and we're not going to refinance you. So. Well, enough people have been inquiring, and I'm going to make this super simple on all of you that are listening to the show. If you have any desire to work with me, whether that is a transaction that you're working on that you need help structuring, if you'd like to buy a deal that I have for sale, if you would like to sell me something, whether it's real estate or a business, happy to talk with you. Or if you want to be a financial partner in one of our real estate transactions, simply go to derekdombeck.com. On the homepage, there will be a tab and there will be a web form for you to fill out. Check the boxes that make the most sense for what you want to do, and you will get directed to schedule a call with me, and let's have a conversation. Let's see what we can do to work together. So look forward to hearing from you no matter what it is that I can help you with. Again, go to derekdombeck.com, fill out the web form, schedule a call, and I will talk to you soon.
Yeah. We had the same experience with, so prior to 2009, 2010, we were doing a good bit of new construction as well. And I had $3 million line of credit at the bank, and I was building houses, buying lots and building houses, and had multiple projects going in various stages, some in permitting, some under construction, some listed for sale. And when the shutdown happened, in 2008, 2009, depending on where you were, maybe a little earlier, but for us, the banks just said, okay, we've decided we're only going to lend to the top 10% of the builders in the country. You're not one of those, so we're calling all your loans due. And I'm like, what? What am I supposed to do? So went through a difficult process with that. I didn't have to file bankruptcy, fortunately, but it was certainly not easy having to short sale properties, and lost a bunch of money that we had saved over the years trying to get out of that deal. So I am not a huge fan of banks. I don't like working with them, and very rarely do I. The only time I will is if like I said, if I'm going to do like a 30-year fix or something after I stabilize a property, and I can get into it where it makes sense. But and I have people who are like, well, why would you pay 12%, 13%, 14% to an investor? And again, if you're doing multiple projects, no matter how much capital you have, you can't keep up with 5, 7, 10 projects. And it's so much easier to deal with private lenders and hard money lenders who are willing to work with you, and you can build a relationship with them, and they are flexible, and they get to know you and trust you. And it's more of a relationship where, as you mentioned, a bank, and it's exactly what happened to me. The banker that I worked with for 4 years left. New guy comes in. He doesn't know who I am. He could care less. And so it was easy for him to cut ties with me and move on. And it crushed us personally. We lost all of our money, and had to start over basically at that time. So I'm not a fan of banks either. I prefer not to work with them at all, unless it's, like I said, unless I'm converting to like a 30-year fix and it makes sense to do it.
Yeah, we're actually right now, I'm a GP in a syndication and we're raising money for a redevelopment of a resort in northern Wisconsin. And we're not
Okay.
putting any institutional money in front of the syndication. And
Really?
I've interviewed plenty of people on this show about syndications, and 99% of the time, the syndication is always behind an institution, which puts the investors at risk.
Yeah.
And this project pencils to pay double-digit returns, and still, is a great project without using an institution. Could we make more money if we put a bank in there? Yes, we could. But it's a 2-year project. So can we honestly say we know what's going to happen towards the end of that project? We don't.
Right.
So the intention is it's new construction, redevelopment of a waterfront resort. We're going to tear everything down and rebuild and condo everything. But at that time, if things aren't going well in the market as far as selling off the buildings, we can go to the syndication and say, you know what, here's our plan to put tenants into these properties for the next 12 or 24 months until the market is solid again, and then we'll sell. And we can all make those decisions together. Can't do that with the institution.
Right.
So it's good to talk to another person who has been through that and also understands it, because
Yeah.
it's very tempting to go and take the cheapest money available, but there's ramifications to everything we do in this business, right?
Yeah. And I talk to people too who, they want to flip a house or whatever, and they say, well, I have $150,000 saved up and I want to do it with my own money. And I still encourage those people, find a private money lender, find a hard money lender, because you could actually take that money and invest it elsewhere and be getting a return on that money. And as long as you build in your cost into your flip, into your budget of what your carry cost is going to be at 12, 14% and whatever points, and it still pencils, you're making money on your money that you've earned, investing it elsewhere, and you're going to make money off your flip, even though you may not make as much. So you're kind of protecting your own money while using other people's money to do the flip. So I always think it's a good idea. Most of the people, as you know, who've been in this business for a long time and who have scaled to sizable investment company, they're all using hard money lender, private lenders, different types, not using, most of them that I'm aware of are not using institutional money.
Yeah, and proper leverage is key in our business. but then not getting out over your skis, as they say in the North, right? Because
Yeah, correct.
even when we were hard money lending, we had some incredible operators that were borrowing money from us for years, but we never wanted to get too top heavy with any one borrower because of the experiences myself and my former business partner had in our careers. It's
Hmm.
it's great until it's not. And there's
Yeah.
always going to be that time to pivot. And if that operator doesn't see it and they don't pivot, and I'll tell you what happened in our lending business as rates started changing, we had a lot of borrowers that were borrowing money from us at hard money rates, doing rental rehabs, not proper, resale rehabs.
Hmm.
And then the rates went up. They
Hmm.
couldn't cash flow those properties to pay us off and
Yeah.
or refinance because they didn't cash flow anymore. So we had to start taking properties back. And sucks, but
Yeah.
sucks for them. We're at 65% loan to value. Yeah, we didn't make what we wanted to make, but we were all right, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
So Brandon, what's kind of some of your bigger aha moments or maybe horror stories from your journey? And then I do want to touch on masterminds a little bit too.
Okay. Yeah, I think boy, horror stories, there's a lot of them. One of them I just shared, that 08, 09 crash. We actually had a new development we were doing, a residential neighborhood we were developing at the time, and appraised for a high dollar. And then by the time it all got done and got all the paperwork done and got it approved through the county, it was late 2009, early 2010, and then we couldn't sell the lots, and so had to go through a short sale process for that. So we developed the land and we're selling the lots to other builders, and so there's been it was a kind of a swing where if things go the way we had planned, myself and my partners, would have made million, 2 million, three, and instead we lost $400,000 and
Mhm.
had to take a 10-year note back with the bank at 3% interest to pay that money back. So you can't time the market like I mentioned earlier before, but you also, in my opinion, you can't sit on the sidelines waiting for the ideal time. I think we say a lot in our business, you have to take imperfect action. And so you do your due diligence, you do the best that you can, make sure you're protecting your investors, protecting your money, doing everything that you can. And then you just have to take those steps forward and take action. So both of those are probably two of the biggest learning lessons. The most difficult thing, one was dealing with the banks when they called all the loans due, and the other was the change in the market that killed our development deal that would have otherwise been pretty nice. But all in all, I think it's been a great ride. My wife quit teaching 3 years after we got married, and we're doing real estate. She got her license, and we've been able to work together since 2004 in real estate. So 22 years, 23 years now that we've been involved in real estate together, and we've been able to travel together and spend a lot of time together. So it's been a great learning lesson. It's been a lot of fun. We both love real estate, and like I said before, I think another benefit is there's just so many different ways to make money and things to do in real estate if you continue to learn. If you continue to study, you continue to grow, continue to learn, and be willing to pivot. There's a lot of different ways you can make money, and as the market shifts, like I said, I think you have to be willing to look at other opportunities and other ways of making money.
Absolutely. Going to masterminds. So
Mhm.
one of my biggest regrets was I was a closet investor early on. I would go to seminars, I would go to trainings and different things, but I didn't build a network.
Mhm.
And I know that you've been a part of some masterminds, and I've been a part of masterminds. I've led masterminds. How did that, once you found the right group, and there are wrong groups out there too, like you got to find one that fits you, but once you found that, how did that propel not only your business, but just your life?
Yeah, it's I tell people it's the number one most important thing that I ever did in my business was joining mastermind groups. And I don't own any, I'm not running any. So I have no, benefit of saying that other than it's actually true and it actually worked for us. And I think, getting around other people who are doing what you want to do or have done it before is key. And so when you join a mastermind group, like you said, depending on which one, if you find the right one for you, at the time we were doing 10, 12, 15 deals a year, and we were rubbing shoulders and going to masterminds and talking to people who were doing 75, 100, 200 deals a year. And so just like I talked about with not knowing anything about types of lending besides institutional bank lending, and then learning about others, we learned so much from people who had been there before. And, when we started out, I didn't know what a CRM was, right? I'm writing down addresses and phone numbers in a notebook. Over time, we learn what a CRM is, and we learn how to automate the CRM, and it simplifies our life and our business. And then you become friends with those people. I've from one of the masterminds that I was in for a long time, I've made lifelong friends. We invest with each other. We give each other money on deals. We've been on retreats together. We've been on trips together. Our families are friends, and so we built relationships with the people that we met in masterminds. And I think it's unique because in my sphere where I live, most of the people that I hang out with are people that my son's friends that he goes to school with and their parents, or people we go to church with, or whatever our community is. But not hardly any of them are real estate investors, and certainly not where we are 20 years into it. When you go to a mastermind, you meet other people like yourself who have been in real estate for a long time and have done a lot in real estate. And so you form a connection and a bond with those people, and you can kind of speak the same language. So again, for me, it was huge, getting to know what I didn't know, getting to learn from other people who had been there, done that, and were willing to share and were willing to help me grow and learn. So I'm a big fan of them. I'm in a different one now, a different mastermind. I think they're huge. I think they're anybody who wants to grow and scale a business, or even personal development. I think they're huge for anybody.
Well, and the thing that I learned, of course, the hard way, you don't know what you don't know, is there's a difference between a seminar and a mastermind. And nowadays, people use the word mastermind for everything. And
Yeah.
to me, a true mastermind is peer-to-peer. Everybody's giving feedback. There's not just one person at the front of the room that everybody's listening to, right? That's a
Right.
seminar, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I remember sitting, on the first few times I went to masterminds and thinking I'm on an island. Nobody's going to understand what I've been through. And you start telling your story and they're like, oh yeah, I had that happen. This is what you do.
Yeah.
I had that happen. I had that happen. Almost everybody in the room had very similar scenarios, or at least, had solutions that you could work
Yeah.
towards. And it was so eye-opening, and nobody was judging each other. I don't believe in being too tight with a local mastermind, because I don't think
Mhm.
people are going to open up if they feel like they're each other's competition. But when you're
Yeah.
bringing people from all different areas of the country, you're in Atlanta, Georgia. You're not competition to me. I have no reason to hold back, and neither do you. We can truly
Right.
be allies. And wow, once those blinders came off, it was unbelievable, the growth that happened, not just financial growth. I mean, just globally across the whole thing,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah. I agree. We did in our mastermind. The model was we would come together as a large group, and we'd have the guy that started it would speak, and maybe one or two other people that are part of it. And then we would break out into smaller rooms, so maybe 20 or 30 people in a room. And then each person had to present for like 10 minutes at every meeting. So we'd go around 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and they would share what is working for them or what's not working or a problem that they have. And then at the end, the last part of the presentation would have to be, what is your give? So what do you have to share with the audience? And then what do you need help with? And sometimes it was personal. You have people going through a terrible life situation like a death or a divorce or something like that. A lot of times it was business related. I'm looking for a connection to help me with financing or to help me build out a new, CRM or whatever it was. But you would sit and listen to 20 different people talk about what was going on in their business. And then I could go, oh, I want to make sure I go talk to him and to her and to her, because what they're talking about has an impact on my business back in Atlanta. And so I would then go schedule time to sit down with them, even have people come to Atlanta and spend, a day or two in my business helping me work through stuff. So it's just like I said, and you said the same thing. They're so valuable. They're so helpful personally and professionally. I think anybody that's trying to go from, a one man shop and trying to scale or trying to build a real business out of it should absolutely find a good mastermind where people are open, authentic, willing to share their personal struggles and join it. I think it'd be game changing.
Yeah. Well, the hardest question of the day. What is one question I should have asked you that I did not? And it can be about anything.
Um, well, I was going to say how long I've been married, but I think I mentioned that already. So even though you didn't ask, I think building a company culture is an important part of building a business. And yes, we are from the South, and there's some stigma to that, but we've always been, as I said, my wife and I have worked together for a long time. We're best friends, and we encourage that culture in our business too. We want people to work hard, and we want them to enjoy family. And we've done events at the end of the year where our employees and their spouses or a guest are invited, donated money to either charities or ministries that they support. Like, hey, you pick a charity this year or a ministry that you are interested in, and we'll donate money on your behalf to that. So I think business is made up of people, and people they have families, they have desires, and I think building a culture into our company where family is first. And yes, we want to be successful. Yes, we want to make money. We want to work hard, but you've got to do it with the right culture. And for us, it's kind of a family oriented type business. So I think that's been a large part of our success over the years is putting people first, putting people before money.
I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your journey with the audience and for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure, and enjoyed talking to you and learning a little bit more about what you have going on as well.
Perfect. Well, for everybody else, go out after you listen to this show, share it with anybody that you believe that can help, or share it with people that just need to hear it. And help us spread the message, grow the generations of wealth family. And until the next show, go and live your vision and love your life. See ya.